What if I have no idea what my bigger purpose is? I hear this question a lot, especially as women start to feel that nudge that just maybe there is more for them. So if you're feeling it too, you're not alone. And today we're going to clarify 2 things that have seriously helped me get out of my own way and into action around making the difference that I know I am uniquely meant to make. And I'm going to help you do that too. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we are talking about a pretty big topic, and I don't want you to get overwhelmed. Talking about your big purpose in life is a little bit daunting, but a lot of women ask this question, especially because in our community, we're having conversations about making an impact and stepping into your purpose, doing what you feel you are uniquely called to do. And I know for myself, this was not a question that was spelled out clearly or an answer that was spelled out clearly. When I started to dive into personal development and realize that there are people in this world who make a really good living doing things that they love to do and that they feel uniquely called to do, the question of, well, maybe that's possible for me, but what in the heck would it be, started to flood my mind. And I don't know if it's as clear for others, but for me, it took a little while to really find my answers, and it took a lot of trial and error. So if that's you, if you are in a space where you are not quite sure exactly what it is that you are meant to do or even where to start, today, I'm going to share with you the 2 things that seriously helped me start moving in the right direction and gain some clarity around this question for myself. But before we dive in, I don't want you to forget that we are giving away a free Ultimate Powerhouse Experience ticket for our 2019 event. And all you have to do is subscribe to the podcast, download all the episodes, and leave us a review. So what we're going to do is once a month, we are going to take someone who's left a review and we are going to give you a free ticket to the event. It's our annual summit. It's where the whole gang gets together, the whole girl gang, and we dive into all of the topics that we've been covering on the podcast live. You get to hear from women and people who just have experience in getting out of their own way, creating a successful business, impacting others, and it's so much fun. We have mimosas, need I say more? So make sure to do that. We will be giving away a ticket at the end of this month and choosing one of you who left a review, and I can't wait to see who it is. Okay, so let's dive in and talk a little bit more about clarifying your purpose. Now, I'm a big believer that for some people know exactly what they want to be when they grow up. Others, like me, this has been an evolving answer. And I like to say now, I'm 35 now, I have no idea really what I want to be when I grow up. And had you told me 5 years ago I would be doing exactly what I'm doing today, I wouldn't have believed you. I couldn't even see the possibility of what I am investing my time and energy into now. So if you ask me what I'm going to be doing in another 10 years, I don't know. Maybe it'll be a version of this. Maybe it'll be something different, or it will be an even more beautiful evolution of the difference that Powerhouse Women is making. But I have decided to take the pressure off of myself because I think the pressure that I had to know exactly what my ultimate bigger purpose was in life was stifling. So for me, I didn't have a moment where it was just clear to me that this is what I was meant to do. It was actually a combination of trial and error and small decisions over time that led up to what I'm doing now, which is something I absolutely love, but could never have planned, or I had no playbook in order to help me get here. So if you're feeling some of the same confusion, and if you're feeling like you're doing more error than trial, it's okay. I promise you it will lead somewhere. But here are two things that really helped me start to answer this question for me. What am I really here to do? What kind of impact do I really want to make? Okay, the first one, and this was a big one, it was really, really tough for me, is I had to get quiet. So I think when we are talking about identifying your bigger purpose in life or what you need to do next in order to move in that direction, it often is women like myself who are already up to big things. I'm an action taker. I'm a doer. So my life tends to be really, really full. And when life is too full, it can be really difficult to hear that little nudge, the little inner voice, the intuition that is asking you to take a step in the right direction. It's difficult to hear and really identify with what is your heart really pulling you toward if life is too cluttered and too full. And this was the case for me. I think I shared on the first episode how I was building my side business along with a full-time job. I was planning a wedding at the time and life was just full. So no wonder I just felt restless. I felt like there was more for me. I felt like I had an idea of the direction I wanted to move, but it felt so painstakingly slow. So fast forward where I was able to clear a little bit of space and I was able to step into building at that time, my wellness business full time. I had to keep listening in to what was my heart really pulling me toward doing, because ultimately it wasn't the wellness business that I ended up, pursuing long term. It was what you're seeing now, what we now see and know as powerhouse women. But what stopped me from, let me try that again, from really being able to hear those little inner nudges was that my life was so full. Number one, my calendar was super full. But the second thing is I was flooding myself with other people's ideas. I was constantly consuming, whether it be social media or personal development, you name it, that I know when I went to write my book, I had to completely detox from consuming other people's content. So if you're feeling right now as though you have an inkling of what direction you want to move in, maybe you want to start a blog, you want to start a podcast, my best advice is to stop for a little while consuming other people's content, reading other people's blogs, listening to other people's podcasts. Yes, even if it's that you have to pause yourself from listening to this one, and allow some space for your creative ideas to come through. Now, how people tap into those ideas it's as unique as you are. And for me, one of the ways that really, really helps me work through a creative block is clearing that space, muting social media, muting, other people's content, and going for a walk. For me, I think best when I am in nature or when I am moving my body in some way. It's very rarely that I'll sit down at my desk and say, okay, be creative and have this flood of creative ideas come. That usually is not the case. But for me, I have to clear that space. Again, get quiet and allow creative ideas to come through. I bet there are creative ideas trying to get your attention, but maybe, just like me, your life right now is a little too cluttered, or you're flooded with other people's ideas so much that you're comparing yourself or you're not allowing your own creativity to come through. Okay, so that was number one. I had to get quiet. And then the second one is I had to get curious. Now, I use this term because it just fit really well with my theme of get quiet, get curious. But what I mean by that is, I had to listen to what were my curiosities and interests pulling me toward. What was right in front of me as something that sounded really fun to do, but maybe I wasn't exploring it. So a perfect example of this is I always think of it kind of like, I'm going to date myself here, but those choose your own adventure books. I don't know if you read those when you were a kid, but I'll give you the premise. Basically, it was this book where you were the protagonist in this story and you were on this adventure. And it would come to a page and it would say, okay, to take the door on the left, turn to page 20. To take the door on the right, turn to page 25, whatever it might be. And you would continue like this. You would get to a point in the story where you would make a decision. You would choose which path you were going to take, and then you would either become this huge hero at the end of the story, or sometimes it would lead to like a fiery death. But the truth is that life is kind of like that without the fiery death part. We have these moments where we can choose to step into something, choose to try a new hobby, take a class, have a connection with a person that maybe you wouldn't normally take the time to go to coffee with. But those little steps, the choices, choosing your own adventure, just like in the book, if you end up going down a path that, okay, I didn't really love that end result, you can always backtrack and try something new. So like when I would read the books as a kid, I would, if it ended up in the fiery death scenario or whatever it was, sometimes you get eaten by a shark. I know it's kind of morbid, but just track with me here. I would just go back a few pages and I would try something new. I would choose another path. And we have that ability anytime that we want. But I think for so many of us, for myself included, I was always afraid to teach or to try something that I wouldn't be good at, or I would invest time in only to realize that it was not for me. And I've tried a lot of different paths that have not ended up being ultimately the thing that I want to do. One of them, a lot of people don't know, but when I first started to go down this path of building a health and wellness business, the first thing that I thought sounded fun was teaching spin class. I loved spin class, but I actually found out through teaching spin class for a year, I loved to be a participant in class. I didn't love to be a teacher. But what that taught me, that experience taught me so much. I had to get out of my comfort zone. I had to learn something new. I had to gain the confidence of being in front of a room of sweaty people, riding these indoor cycling bikes. So I gained so much from it. I cannot say that it was my ultimate purpose in life, but it absolutely taught me some things that have led me to what I'm doing now. And had I not tried that option, right, pursued something that I was curious about, maybe I never would have gained the confidence to step on stage and talk in front of people or do so many of the things that I'm doing now. So a great question just to ask yourself, sit down with a piece of paper and make a list of all the things that have crossed your mind recently that you think seem fun and you think you might be interested in. And it's not that you have to do all of them. There's such a thing as shiny object syndrome. And, again, going back to my first point, filling your calendar with too much. But typically, the things that are really calling to us will stand out. They will be the ones that you can't get off of your mind, or every time you think about it, you tell yourself that you want to find time in your calendar to do that thing. And sometimes it's just a creative outlet to shake up some new energy. Sometimes it will lead you to meet a person or to find a hidden passion that you didn't know you had. And I've gained so much from doing things like that along the way, and I actually wish I would have been a little bit more adventurous to try more things quicker instead of just thinking about them. So that's actually something I'm taking on this year in 2019, is doing more of the things that are interesting to me or I'm curious about, and using that as a creative outlet, just trusting that it is going to lead me maybe down the next path that I'm supposed to take in this big evolution. But if you start there, if you get quiet, allow space for creative ideas to come through. And if you get curious, think about what might be trying to get your attention right now that you're not giving attention to, maybe because life is too cluttered, then it can really start to help you it can help you start to answer that question for yourself. Because oftentimes I would try to answer the question of what is my bigger purpose, or what am I supposed to be giving my time and attention to right now? I would try to answer that question standing still, instead of getting out there and giving something a go, trying an avenue, even if it doesn't end up being my ultimate calling in life, oftentimes it led me to the thing that was. So for you, I don't want you to get hung up on needing to know steps 1 through 1,000 before you take the first step in doing the thing that you feel you're meant to do. I want you to start to put together this journey that's going to teach others something that they needed to hear from you. But you're not going to have it all figured out before you start. And I can honestly tell you now from this point, to almost 3 years into this journey of building powerhouse women, that had someone showed me a glimpse of where I'm at now when I had first started, it probably would have freaked me out. I wouldn't have been ready for it. I was only ready for the next 1 or 2 steps that were right in front of me, and I needed to trust that if I took those steps, the rest of the path would unveil itself. And actually, I'm still reminding myself of that now as I embark on this next thing, the podcast, the events, the tour, all of the things that we're doing this year. I just have to trust that I don't need to see the whole picture. I don't need to know what the whole bigger purpose is or where I'll end up at the end of my life. But I know that if I keep following what I'm curious about now, and I allow space and carve out time to get quiet, that the ideas and the inspiration that I need in order to keep me moving forward and continue making the impact that I want to make, and same for you, the impact you want to make, that if I do those things, I will absolutely be moving in the right direction. And that's what we really want. We don't need the answer. It's not so much about where we'll end up. It's about the journey that it takes you on and what you learn about yourself along the way. So, what about you? What could happen if you carve out some time this week to get quiet, clear some space for creative thinking, and get curious? Ask yourself, what am I interested in? What am I curious to try? Because who knows, you just may connect with an even deeper purpose and a bigger impact that you are meant to make.